Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the Last Round Boxing Podcast. This week, we have the head of 360 Boxing Promotions, Tom Loeffler. Obviously, boxing fans know exactly who this gentleman is, especially in the last, maybe almost 15 years or so. Obviously, he's been in the sport of boxing for decades, but in the last 15 years or so, maybe a little less than that, he helped guide the career of Gennady Golovkin and actually brought him to the United States, which is something he touches on during the upcoming interview that you're about to listen to, especially since he had mentioned that he only got about 2 to 3 minutes to speak in his recent induction into the National Boxing Hall of Fame. So I give him a couple more minutes to expand on the stories that he didn't get to touch on during his speech, because obviously, getting an induction into the National Boxing Hall of Fame should give you an ample opportunity to talk about all the memories and the pathway that got you to that moment. So Tom goes into some background stories, touches on some memories that he was hoping to touch on during his speech at the National Boxing Hall of Fame. As I mentioned, we talk about the fights this past Saturday in Times Square, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Honor Barboza. We touch on all of these fights. Rolly Romero, obviously, probably getting the biggest win of his career. And some people call it an upset. Do you agree? Who knows if it's an upset, even though he was, I guess, if you look at it from a betting standpoint, a number standpoint, it was an upset. But they did have a history. And over here at the last round, and I mentioned it to Tom during the interview, we did believe that Romero, especially because of his big punch, he has power in that punch, was going to have a shot. So for myself, I wasn't too surprised because he does have a strong punch, and they do have that history, him and Ryan Garcia. But obviously, Tom gives his take on each of the fights: Teofimo Lopez and Honor Barboza, Devin Haney and Jose Ramirez, Canelo Alvarez and William Sco in Saudi Arabia, which also happened later that night, and then also what many fans are saying saved the weekend this past Sunday from Las Vegas on ESPN. Naoya, the monster Inoue, stopping Ramon Cardenas. Tom actually goes into, we touch on it, where he was the first promoter to bring the monster to the United States. So he touches on that memory and all that. So that was a nice tidbit to talk about during the upcoming interview. He also touches on his upcoming 360 Boxing Promotions cards on May 17th in Commerce Casino in Los Angeles. And then also, I believe June 21st, the return of King Callum Walsh, which to us, he seems like probably the main star of 360 Boxing Promotions. He's definitely the main star, getting the rub from Dana White. Dana White has talked about him and how he's a big fan of King Callum Walsh. Dana White has been at a couple of these fights for 360 Boxing Promotions. And then Tom goes into his relationship with Dana White. And I also ask him if he has, or if he's going to have any association with the upcoming TKO boxing league that was announced earlier this year. Obviously, the Turki Al-Sheikh had mentioned during the past week that Canelo versus Crawford, which Tom also touches on during the upcoming interview, will be the first event that is promoted by Dana White. So I'm not sure if he said it was promoted by TKO. I believe he did say that, but I know he did mention Dana White. So that seems like that might be the launching pad. We don't have, as of today, we don't have a TV broadcast partner to announce for that show yet, but I'm sure it's coming in the next couple of weeks or so. But as I mentioned, I asked Tom if he has any association or if he's going to be a part of this new TKO league, especially since his promotional banner has an agreement with UFC Fight Pass, obviously that's under the leadership of Dana White. And the relationship between Dana White and Tom Loeffler is obviously a very positive one. They both talked about each other very positively. So who knows? Dana White seems like the guy that would bring somebody like Tom Loeffler on, especially with the relationship they have. Dana White has alluded to boxing people and other people he trusts in the sport. I'll give you some details on that, and you can kind of hear how Tom expands on the question that I asked him about any potential association with the upcoming TKO Boxing League. But without further ado, this is our guest of the week, the head of 360 Boxing Promotions. This is Tom Loeffler.
And now it's time for the last round interview of the week.
The head of 360 Boxing Promotions joins us this week. Our guest of the week, Tom Loeffler, joins the Last Round Boxing Podcast. Thank you for joining us, Tom.
It's good to be with you, Danny. Always great to talk boxing.
We appreciate it. So I apologize. My co-host Mike couldn't make it today. He sends his regards, but luckily there's two of us. So it gives us a 50-50 shot to always still do the interview. But before we kind of get into like some recent news in and around the sport, we wanted to congratulate you on your recent induction into the Boxing Hall of Fame. Can you kind of give us an overview of when they first asked you, or they if you wanted to be inducted, what was your reaction?
No, it was a great honor. I've been doing this for 33 years now. Started in 1992. First boxer I worked with was Kevin Kelly. Since then, creating opportunities for Shane Mosley to get his world title. Just the list goes on to the Klitschko brothers, to the Triple G promotions. It's kind of a little bit of an overview, but I was very honored. It was great to be, Robert Garcia was up there as part of that class. Fernando Vargas was there. Bob Arum was also honored. So there were some great inductees, and it was nice to be recognized for all the years of work in boxing, for sure.
Now, are you the type of guy that writes his speeches, or are you the type of guy that just kind of flows it because you have the confidence to do that?
I like to flow it. I went over certain points in my head, what I wanted to talk about, but then, my experience is if I start reading something at the microphone, it doesn't come off very natural. So I always kind of gauge how the room is and maybe ad lib a few things here and there. So that's what I like to do, just to kind of flow what's going on.
Is there anything that you feel that you didn't get to say in that speech that you kind of looked back on it, you're like, oh man, I should have mentioned that?
There's a lot of things. They limited me. They said, 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. So I had to keep the speech very succinct. But there's a lot of things that, in a longer format, one of the highlights that I like to talk about is, the way I started in sports was through my partner, Harlan Warner. He was representing a lot of, iconic retired athletes, Muhammad Ali, Sandy Koufax, Joe Namath, the list goes on and on, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown. But some of the highlights for me in the sports business aren't necessarily on the boxing promotion side. It was when I was spending time with Muhammad Ali. I organized an appearance for him over in Germany when the Ali film came out with Will Smith. And the deal was like a 3-day trip to Germany for the premiere. And we got Muhammad paid very correctly for that. But, just having the honor and privilege to spend that kind of time with him, there was a lot more meetings with him over the years, but that kind of stands out because I was the one that actually organized that trip and negotiated everything for him, and that worked out really well. So, touching on things like that, I didn't really get a chance to do. I did work with Layla Ali 2 times. I organized 2 fights for her, one at Madison Square Garden, where she was there when Vladimir Klitschko fought, and then also in Berlin, Germany, when Muhammad was there at both times. So it's been a great it's been a great relationship with the Ali family. Ron DiNicola has represented the Ali family for numerous years, and he's been part of the some of the contracts we did for the Klitschkos, for the Triple G contracts and negotiations. So there's been a great tie and a great relationship with Muhammad and with the Ali family.
Assuming that they didn't give you a time constraint in your speech of 1 to 2, 3 minutes, ideally, if you had the control or the authority, how long would your speech be?
Well, if I had written down all the points I wanted to talk about, it could go on easy for half an hour. I mean, just all the great memories over the years. Like I said, starting with Kevin Kelly, and he was rated number 1 in the world, but couldn't get a world title shot. So we forced that with the WBC, where he got his title fight against Goyo Vargas, who was a very, very tough fighter out of Mexico. It was his first title defense, it was mandatory title defense. We got Kevin that shot on HBO. And going from there to Shane Mosley, where, when I met Shane and I saw him fight over here, he was fighting for very, very modest money. He was one of those fighters who had a great amateur career. All the fighters knew who he was, and none of them wanted to fight him because he wasn't making big purses or getting big paydays on TV. So he was very, very avoided. The deal I made with Shane, with my partner Harlan, was we guaranteed him a world title fight within 1 year, which, he was in the top 10, but, there's one thing about being in the top 10 and another thing actually getting the world title shot. And sure enough, with my relationship with Kevin Kelly, being with Cedric Kushner at the time, being on HBO, Cedric had a good relationship with Rodney Berman, who represented Philip Holiday. So we were able to get that fight made on HBO, where Shane fought for the IBF championship against Philip Holiday. It was the very first fight at Mohegan Sun Casino. And so that's another highlight. It's nice when you can really add value to someone's career like that. Shane going from, just fighting regular fights to then becoming a world champion, and then, fighting on HBO regularly, it changed his whole life, and the legacy began as far as him being a world champion. Some of those, you look at a fight like that or a fighter like that, and if he had not gotten the opportunity or had to wait another 2 or 3 years to fight for a title, the whole thing, his whole career could have shifted, where, he didn't get the big fights against Oscar or whatever. It's hard to say. Triple G was similar to that. And a lot of people don't realize there's such a fine balance in boxing. Triple G was a Olympic silver medalist. The only reason he didn't win the gold medal is because he was so good, the coach moved him up to a heavier weight at super middleweight, so that there was another boxer at middleweight that could fight, and that boxer won the gold medal, and Triple G won a silver medal. But he had signed with a promoter in Germany, and was frustrated that he was also a mandatory for Felix Sturm. Didn't get that opportunity. Actually, it wasn't a mandatory. I'm sorry. He was chasing Felix Sturm, but the promoter in Germany kept him away from Felix Sturm, and he was kind of fighting on undercards and not making all that much money. And he was really considering going back to Kazakhstan, where he could live a very comfortable lifestyle based on his amateur accomplishments, winning a silver medal. There's a lot of sponsorships there, a lot of support for outstanding athletes. And if I didn't get him the shot on HBO when he did, and open the doors for him over here on US TV, there was a good chance that he was going to go back to Kazakhstan and be over there with the family. So that really shows the balance there, where he got on HBO. It wasn't easy getting him that fight on HBO. That's kind of a long story, and I would have gone into that story too. That was where he was going to fight Dmitry Pirog as a unification fight. Triple G had the WBA title at that time. He had a interim title because the WBA made a new rule as a super champion to give Felix Sturm a super championship, and then so Gennady was an interim champion at that time, and but he was going to unify with Pirog as the WBO champion. Killer, big right hand, knocked out Danny Jacobs in the second round, and that was going to be a barn burner. Triple G versus Pirog. Unfortunately, Pirog got injured and never fought again. But then he fought Proxa, And then after his HBO debut, the fans couldn't get enough of him. You know, he fought then Gabe Rosado, who everybody knows who Gabe is. Then he fought in Monte Carlo in front of Prince Albert and Princess Charlene. Those were some great highlights. I would have talked about that experience too. Fighting in Monaco over there was a tremendous experience. Fighting in the casino or at the sporting hall over there in front of all the yachts and all the Ferraris and everything like that. That it just didn't even feel like reality over there. Then, fighting Curtis Stevens with Triple G. Curtis Stevens, a lot of East Coast people, they didn't believe how good he was. A lot of people over here, they saw him spar. Like Doug Fisher went up there, saw him spar with Canelo and talking to Abel Sanchez. And, a lot of people knew over here how good he was. But on the East Coast, they thought there was a lot of writers, a lot of boxing people on the East Coast thought Curtis Stevens was going to expose Triple G. And we saw what happened in that fight. And there's another interesting story I can talk about Triple G. I mean, I have so many experiences with Triple G. But in 2011, before he fought on HBO, he was going to be the co-feature to Vladimir Klitschko, who the Klitschkos regularly fought or always fought in large soccer stadiums. So it was scheduled in Dusseldorf, a 50,000-seat soccer stadium, and Triple G was going to be the co-feature on that show. And Vladimir had to cancel the fight. The week of the fight, he had a kidney stone removed, and so there was no way that he was able to fight. And Triple G was there. His opponent was there. So he went from literally a 50,000-seat soccer stadium to fighting in a 500-seat ballroom in Germany because, the lack of promotion over there. He wasn't really well known at all in Germany, and or actually, worldwide, he wasn't that well known. And so, we just wanted to get the fight done because everyone was there. The commission was there, so we figured, well, let's let him fight. And that's an interesting story on the Triple G side.
Well, we'll have to have you back on in the future, so we can just talk about all the stories that you missed in that that 2-minute speech that they gave you, because I'm sure there's a lot of other stories that you have. But congratulations again, Tom. That's a great accomplishment after so many decades in the sport. That's definitely appreciated.
Thank you.
I wanted to touch on this past Saturday the uniqueness, whether good or bad, of the Times Square event.
Yeah.
Just because it is unique, that. I don't know if there's ever been an event in Times Square like that. But what's your take before we kind of get your quick takes on the main fights there, Tom? What's your take on just the whole logistical aspect and the entire, situation of a fight in Times Square like that?
The logistics must have been a nightmare. I've dealt with New York a lot of times. Klitschko's fought the Madison Square Garden a number of times. Triple G fought there a number of times. We just had Callum Walsh fighting there 3 times at the theater in New York. And there's a lot of unions, a lot of regulations in New York City. And that's at a controlled environment in Madison Square Garden. Now, you go outdoors. We had an example where we did a fight with Vladimir Klitschko and David Hay in Hamburg Stadium, and we always had a rule of, okay, if we go to a soccer stadium, it's always going to be closed. And for whatever reason, the management company over there, they chose to go to Hamburg, which was an open stadium. And sure enough, I remember it was on my birthday, July 7th. I share the same birthday as Emmanuel Stewart, who was training Vladimir at the time. May he rest in peace. And it literally had the worst rainstorm of the year in July in Germany. So I think they really dodged a bullet over there in a sense, where I saw the weather reports and it looked like the day after, or maybe 2 days after, it was just raining straight for 4 days in New York City. So if it had been raining, it would have definitely literally dampened the whole the whole event. I don't know if they had a contingency plan of moving inside, but going outdoors, you're subject to the weather, especially in New York. Then you have all the fire permits, the police permits, the traffic, everything like that. I don't know. It must have been a logistical quagmire of everything they had to do. So you got to give them a lot of credit for that. I know the fans were very disappointed with those barriers, the high fence barriers that were blocked off from the view. I don't know why. I guess they would have done that because people were just standing on the sidewalks, or maybe the traffic would stand still. I'm not exactly sure. about that. Maybe that was part of the agreement with the city, is that, okay, you can put it here in Times Square, but it's got to be, cordoned off or whatever it is. I don't know how that went, and the expense of that, of, setting up the ring. And, I saw they had to transport fighters from the hotel to the ring, the fighters sitting in the car, getting cold or whatever, then walking into the ring. It's hard to say, but that definitely was an impressive feat to do it. I think it fell short of what the goal was, is to make a statement of, okay, here, if you're going to fight in Times Square, you figure you want to have as many people watching the fight as possible. And I think even from the office buildings or hotel rooms around there, if you have a canopy over the ring, unless you're at an angle and you can see into the ring, it's going to be hard to actually look down and watch the fights from up top. So impressive statement to go to Times Square, I think, from a fan standpoint. And then, unfortunately, the fights didn't deliver. They weren't as, paying that kind of a premium for the fighters. I know a lot of people commented on it. And then not having the type of performances that are really, exciting for the fans. I think that it fell short, unfortunately, for the entertainment aspect of that show.
What was your take on Rolly Romero defeating Ryan Garcia, especially since he was the underdog on the betting sites and Las Vegas and all that, which we didn't think that, just because he was a betting underdog on the numbers side, we still thought he has a big punch. We weren't that surprised, but what did you think?
You got to give Rolly a lot of credit. I'm a big Ryan Garcia fan. I like Ryan. I know him out here from LA. I've seen him a number of times. I know some of the people are involved with him, and I like what he's doing. I like, social media and all that type of thing. Well, he definitely creates a big buzz. When Ryan says something or fights or whatever, a lot of people follow it. But you got to give Rolly credit. He looked great, trained by Ishmael Salas. I know Salas, anytime he brings a fighter to the ring, they're definitely going to be well conditioned, well prepared. Salas trains Kazuto Ioka, who I think he did a tremendous job with. So I saw firsthand how well prepared he got Ioka for the fights. And so I think, had I known that, my prediction was that Ryan was going to win, but had I known Salas was in his corner with Rolly, I would have said, okay, well, this is going to be an interesting fight. And like you said, Rolly can punch. And so whenever you have a puncher in the ring, when he dropped Ryan, I think it changed the whole complexion of the fight. I think Ryan, changed his game plan and instead of becoming an aggressive fighter, which he was, what we saw against Haney, then he became a defensive fighter, and it wasn't as many fireworks as a lot of people predicted. But hats off to Rolly and Salas, and he's a three-weight world champion now, and it was a great accomplishment for him. That was the biggest winner of fight night was Rolly in the main event, winning. And Teofimo Lopez, Teo always puts on a show for the fans, so he was entertaining. But I thought Rolly made a great statement, and a tremendous win for his career.
Now, you touched on the Teofimo Lopez fight where he defeated Arnold Barboza. We thought Barboza, he's based out here in El Monte, California. We thought he was going to be a little bit more competitive, but Lopez seemed to neutralize him. Did you expect that, or were you surprised by that?
Well, I know Barboza was trained by Don Chewy, and there's another one. Don Chewy trains one of our fighters, Omar Trinidad, and Trinidad is a tremendous talent, and he just keeps beating guys. We put him in tough matchups, and he keeps beating guys. So, we figured, I figured Barboza would be well prepared for that fight. I like Teo a lot. He's come to a lot of our events. Also an entertainer, and big on social media. I thought Barboza would be a little more competitive, but there you definitely got to give Teofimo credit of showing the difference in class, world class, and then Barboza being a notch below that. So was happy to see that win for Tio. That's a big, keeps the momentum going for him for sure. Being a New York native out there, and putting on a show for the fans. But yeah, to get back to your question, I thought it'd be a little more competitive with Barbosa from exactly from what you were saying.
What about the Devin Haney, getting this decision over Jose Ramirez? That's another one, just because Ramirez, coming from like the Robert Garcia style, Robert Garcia Boxing Academy, but, Haney has his style of fighting. Unfortunately, like we talked about, or we touched on earlier, is that the night didn't, with all these big stars in the sport, didn't produce the fireworks that fans are yearning for or always look for in terms of fights. But what did you think about Haney beating Ramirez?
I think that fight is the one that got the most criticism. You hit on it where, Robert Garcia has his guys well prepared, very aggressive fighters. So I think he fell short. But I think Devin really could have done more in terms of, he won the decision, and, the game plan was, it was pretty clear. The plan for the promotion was for Devin to win and for Ryan to win, and then those guys would face off in the ring. And, so Devin did his part in winning, but I know there was a lot of criticism on just being safety first and not engaging, when you could tell he probably could have made it a lot more exciting fight, and still won the fight, but make it more exciting for the fans. So I think that was a fight that probably got the most criticism of the night. But look, if he won, now he can, defended his title, and he can go on and, see what other type of fights they can put together for him. It just, I think it kind of hurts your marketability just in general when it's not an exciting fight. That's what we had with Triple G, was, when he knocked out 23 guys in a row, 23 opponents in a row, that people were really tuned in to see action in the ring and excitement and a knockout and that type of thing. That's why Mike Tyson was so popular, because he was just knocking people out. Didn't matter if it was in the first round or second round. It was just so exciting to have him in there. And that was pretty much the opposite what we saw with the Haney and Ramirez fight.
Do you think Haney and Garcia still end up fighting? Ryan might use the reasoning like, well, I still beat him even though I lost, and he could still get the rematch if he wants.
That's still there. Even though Ryan didn't get the decision that night, there's still a huge rivalry between the two of them, and with Devin winning and Ryan not winning, it kind of builds up. Okay, well, to me, I think you could still do the rematches. Maybe not as much luster as it was before, but once you get those two guys in the ring, not in the ring, but with the press conferences, and then you got Bill Haney and Oscar going at it, and Bernard Hopkins is in the mix, and I could easily see that being still an exciting promotion. It just, you would hope that if they fought, it'd be a lot more exciting. Like the first fight. First fight was a very exciting fight. It was a back and forth type of thing with a lot of knockdowns. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go directly into that rematch, but it just really depends on what Turkey decides that he would like to do. He's financing these type of shows and promotions, and so he would really be the one to call the shots on what goes forward on that.
What do you think about Canelo's win in Saudi Arabia over William Skull?
I think people, Skull is just not another, fighter that just does not have a fan-friendly, exciting style. I guess that's the best way. I always like to be politically correct. I don't like to criticize fighters. Anyone that gets in the ring, within the ropes, they're definitely, they're in a fight. And a lot of people that like to criticize fighters that don't put on the most exciting fight, haven't fought one round in their life. So, I don't like to be that guy. I just don't think, like, for me, it wasn't that exciting of a fight. Definitely, I think Terrence Crawford being there and them announcing that fight as the next fight. Terrence is one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, if not the pound for pound fighter. So you got two of the top faces in boxing scoring off against each other, and you would think that Crawford is definitely going to bring a lot more intensity, a lot more pressure, a lot more, I would say, a higher boxing IQ type of thing. That's going to become an interesting fight. That could be a chess match because both those guys are at such a high level in the ring, where you got two normally very aggressive fighters. But then if you match them up, sometimes they become a little bit cautious of the styles. But I think that one, I think Terrence probably going to press the action. He's coming up in weight, and Canelo's a tremendous counterpuncher. So I expect that one to really have the fireworks, especially coming off the criticism that we saw, with Canelo and Skull, or the Haney fight, or Ryan Garcia fight. It was none of them were really barn burners. So I have a feeling there's gonna be pressure on both Canelo and Crawford to put on an exciting fight for the fans.
And then in a fight this past Sunday in Las Vegas on ESPN, that a lot of people and fans say saved the weekend, at least in terms of excitement.
Yeah.
The monster Naoya Inoue stopped Ramon Cardenas. But before I get your quick take on that, you were the first promoter to bring the monster to the United States, correct?
That's true. That's an interesting story in itself. Going back to like the Hall of Fame speech, we paired up Triple G and Chocolatito on the HBO shows, and that was a tremendous. They were both rated 1 and 2 on the pound for pound list. I don't think that's happened before, or I don't think it's going to happen again, because we were able to put the two top fighters in the world on the same show, and just gave a lot of value and a lot of excitement to the fans. And because Chocolatito became so popular, he was always a tremendous fighter, similar to Triple G. Triple G was a tremendous fighter, but once he got on the HBO stage, then all of a sudden he took off, and we were able to, help him with the promotion, with the Mexican fans, and all the, everything that goes with it. That's a whole. We could do a whole 2 or 3 interviews about how the Triple G global brand and superstar came to be. But the point I'm making about Inoue is then we had the green light from HBO. I got to give a lot of credit to Peter Nelson. He's the one that really pushed for Triple G to get the date on HBO. And then Chocolatito naturally was a great co-feature. And Chocolatito became so popular with the fans that Peter agreed to give Chocolatito his own main event, and that superfly division, the super flyweight division, had so many talented fighters that were willing to fight each other that we spun off the series of the superfly, and we had Inoue on the show over there at what was known back then as the StubHub Center. So he fit in perfectly with that series. It was great to have him on HBO, great to promote his first fight over here in the States. And I'm really happy for him that building off of that, his career has just really taken off, and has become a very dominant champion. It was exciting. He got dropped, and then he came back and was able to win that fight. But he's towards the top of the pound for pound list as well. It was good to see the continued success of Inoue and the fans' response. Like you said, saving the weekend. He was in an exciting fight, and that was good to see for sure.
So you have an upcoming 360 Promotions event on Saturday, May 17th, with Sergey Bohachuk, Omar Trinidad, Mizuzuki Hirota at the headlining event, or a matchup at least. Can you tell us a little bit about that up on May 17th?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a tremendous show. This might be it looks like it's going to be one of our best shows, these matchups. I mean, Bohachuk has proven, I still think he's at the top of the 154-pounder division. Whatever people think about that fight with Virgil Ortiz, it was a tremendous fight. One of the top fight of the year candidates for last year, in my opinion, was a top fight of the year. But, you know, with Boachuk being able to drop Virgil twice, talk about odds. Virgil was a big favorite. I couldn't understand it, like a 3 or 4 to 1 favorite. But, you know, we knew what Boachuk was bringing to the table. And I really thought, you know, with the 2 knockdowns, I didn't think there was any way, with the rest of the rounds being very competitive, I didn't think there was any way that Sergey was going to lose the fight up there. But sure enough, one of the judges figured out a way to give Virgil the last 4 rounds. After Sergey dropped him the second time in the 8th round, one judge scored 9, 10, 11, and 12, almost like, you know what, Virgil's in the hole. I got to score every round for him now. I mean, that's really the feeling you walk away from. But Boachuk gained a lot of fans from the Virgil Ortiz fight, gained a lot of fans when he beat Brian Mendoza, went over to Saudi Arabia, was supposed to fight Madrimov. I think Virgil was lucky that Madrimov pulled out of the Boachuk fight, because he wouldn't have, I'm pretty sure Boachuk would have beaten Madrimov. That's a great fight down the road. If we want to make a fight with Boachuk and Madrimov, that's a great fight as well. But Sergey Boachuk fighting Michael Fox. Michael Fox is 24-4, great record. Awkward, tall, southpaw. We saw what happened to Charles Conwell. He was highly rated, and he just got beat out here on the West Coast. So, you know, a lot of fans are looking forward to that. And Omar Trinidad, you can't say enough about him, you know, coming from Boyle Heights. Very humble beginnings there, but really, you know, we crown him the king of LA, because just so many fans come out to see him fight. And you talk about an action fighter. Omar has never been in a boring fight. Every time you put him in a tough fight, he always comes out on top. And that's why, you know, after he fought, I think he fought on our shows like 4 times. And I'm like, you know, we need to sign Omar to a promotional contract, because he keeps beating all these guys that are supposed to be tough opponents for him. And, you know, he's fighting Alexander Espinoza, who's he's from Ecuador, but he's 20-3, great record. Omar's undefeated at 18-0. And then one of my favorites is Mizuki Haruta. She's actually the WBO world champion from Japan. And, you know, we have a lot of Japanese sports fans out here now in LA with Otani and what the Dodgers are doing. And she's actually making her mandatory title defense. Very tough girl from Argentina, Carla Moreno, who's got another great record, 16-2. So you got a world championship fight with Mizuki. You got Boachuk, who's rated number 1 in the WBC in the world. You got Omar Trinidad, who's rated number 2 in the IBF in their world rating. So that's a great fight for all the fight fans. And we also have Abel Mejia, who's a very exciting fighter here from Orange, California. And then also Lupita Medina. Lupita a lot of times steals the show with, you know, at the weigh-in, or, you know, her walkout, that type of thing. So people are looking forward to see him fight Eduardo Diaz, who's an active LAPD officer. Eduardo brings a big fan base with him. Always excited to have him on the show. So, no, it's from top to bottom, it's a great show. We have a new fighter for us, Jocelyn Camareno, actually from Coachella. Very attractive, undefeated, 3-0, and she's going to bring a big fan base with her as well. So we really got a great show for the fans. The doors open early, actually 4 o'clock. First fight's at 5 o'clock. And UFC Fight Pass. Naturally, it's streamed on UFC Fight Pass, so that'll be at 7 p.m. there, live from the Commerce Casino.
And you're wearing your King Callum Walsh shirt as I'm talking to you as well.
It's on for you. We made this for the, I believe it was for the fight in Boston, actually, when he fought on St. Patrick's Day out there. But yeah, Omar's the king of LA, and Callum is just King Callum Walsh. He's fighting June 21 over at Chumash Casino, beautiful casino up there by Santa Barbara area in the mountains up there by Santa Ynez, wine tasting country. That's going to be a tremendous. One thing I wanted to touch on with that was that's going to be a tremendous weekend up there at Chumash. We're going to have A1 bringing an MMA show on Friday night on June 20th, and then Callum Walsh is going to headline the boxing show on Saturday night, so fans can come up there, watch great A1 promotion on Friday, and then stay for the boxing promotion. Both of them are going to be telecast live on UFC Fight Pass. And like I said, you can go up there for the weekend, go up there on a Friday afternoon, do some wine tasting up there by Los Olivos, and Solvang is up there. It's a beautiful casino up there, Chumash Casino. So we're excited about that. Kane Sandoval is going to be on that show. Again, he's become a fan favorite up there at Chumash Casino. So we're really looking forward to the return. I always like to say the return to the king because, now at 13-0 with 11 knockouts, Callum, you talk about an exciting fighter. His last fight at Madison Square Garden was supposed to be like he's fighting a great European boxer, 19-1, Dean Sutherland. And Callum just goes out there and is nonstop throwing punches and actually stopped him in the first round. I was shocked. I thought Callum was the favorite to win that fight, but not in the first round by any stretch. And, talk about just coming out with the guns blazing. He really put on a show for the fans. And on St. Patrick's weekend, he made it a short night out there at Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely. And before we finish up here, obviously we appreciate your time, Tom, today. About the whole TKO boxing league and stuff, just because, you have your promotional banner associated with UFC Fight Pass. Obviously, Dana White is a good friend of yours. He's always said nice things about you and you say nice things about him. So there's a good relationship there. Is there anything you can tell us in terms of details if you're going to be involved in that venture alongside Dana and his team, Turkey and his team, and all that?
Well, I only have great things to say about Dana. What he's accomplished with the UFC, I mean, that brand is, what he's built up there is unbelievable. Wherever they go, whatever arena they go to, it's always sold out. The numbers, the televised numbers, the ratings, everything is tremendous. What he's done with that organization. I've been to a number of UFC shows now, and just the structure, the organization, everything that he's built up is very impressive. So I really think that if he brings, or when he brings that same energy into the sport of boxing, it's going to be a tremendous injection of energy, of just competitive fights. That was the commitment we made to Dana is, we're going to put he gave us the dates on UFC Fight Pass, and we're going to put on some great matchups for him. Always competitive fights. You look at this May 17th show. All those fights are great fights from top to bottom, and this is going to be a tremendous show for the fans. And Dana announced when we were in Dublin, he's like, he officially announced, he's all in for boxing, and so with his expertise on the promotion side and. I'm just excited about what he's going to bring to the table, and looking forward to the future. I guess we'll leave it at that. I'm just really looking forward to the future about that one.
Well, if anything changes going forward, Tom, by the end of the year or next year, we'd love to have you back on to talk about whatever developing news comes about. Because obviously the landscape is changing to an extent. It's very significant. So, there's going to be a lot of news and notes going forward in the sport of boxing. But as we mentioned, you got the card May 17th, a couple weeks from now, actually about maybe 10 days or so. And then you got the return of King Callum Walsh on June 21st up there by Santa Barbara, which you're right. It's a beautiful area. Somebody can make like a weekend out of it, like some people, and go to the fights and then go to the casino. It's a very beautiful area up there. But is there anything else you want to put out there before we finish up here, Tom?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, going back to the Hall of Fame speech, one of the other things I was proud of is I have a great relationship with Alexander Krasyuk from K2 Ukraine. And, one of the things that stands out, what I've accomplished when Vitaly and Vladimir put their faith in me to guide their career on the promotion side, we broke the record, or we have the record of the most heavyweight championship fights of this century. And, we opened the door for Usyk to fight at the Forum on HBO. And then also because the relationship I had with HBO through the Triple G days, we got him on that show over there at Washington, D.C. And where they had, I think it was Nail was fighting, Lomachenko was fighting, and Usyk was fighting. And so that really kind of opened the door for him and his popularity over here in the States on HBO. And then he won, what was it, the Super 6 tournament or the World Championship of Boxing. And now, I consider Usyk to be the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. So it's a tremendous what Krasiuk has done with Usyk over there, and I'm happy for them to continue the legacy that we set with K2, and now they're continuing the number of heavyweight promotions with K2 Ukraine. So that's one thing that I didn't get to squeeze into the speech, but definitely proud to have been associated with Usyk on a couple of those fights.
Well, as I mentioned, Tom, you're more than welcome to come back, and we can talk about all those stories that they didn't give you time in that 2 minutes to
for sure
promote. Because I'm sure you have way more than 30 minutes of stories that you got, and obviously, boxing fans love the nostalgia and the stories in the sport. But you can follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. You can follow Tom online as well at Tom Loeffler, also at 360 Promo. As I mentioned, he's got his events coming up May 17th and June 21st. The return of King Callum Walsh on June 21st. And then the May 17th, is that the Commerce Casino?
That's at Commerce Casino, yeah. There's still tickets available for that. They're actually selling fast. Like you said, we're 10 days out. The $80 tickets are all sold out. Chumash, we sell out every show up there. So make sure to get the tickets early. That's I believe it's chumashcasino.com, and then the link for the Commerce tickets that's on our social media. 360 Promotions. Instagram has the link for the Commerce Casino show. So that's going to be a fun night. It's going to get loud whenever Omar Trinidad fights. He brings out a huge crowd. It gets loud, and it's a fun time over there at Commerce Casino.
Absolutely, this should be a barn burner, not like this past Saturday. So you should have some pretty fun fights there here in the Los Angeles area. So as I mentioned, you can follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media for our guest of the week in 360 Promotions head Tom Loeffler. I'm Danny Z. This is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round Podcast.